Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Melanie here from Mel's Inky Fingers. I'm going live early today. I let you know last week that today was going to be an early day, and so I'm going to give everyone just a minute or two to find me. But today we are going to work with this absolutely adorable, doggone friendly background stamp and coloring techniques. So we are going to use about the same layout, but we are going to do two different ways to color just to give you some ideas. And one of them is super, super cool. So let me adjust my lights here. I feel like I'm a little dark. With my new mat, which I absolutely love, 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 it does give you a glare from the lights. So hopefully the glare is not too bad, but this looks very crooked, doesn't it? Well, I am sorry about that, but I'm not going to mess too much with my camera because I know that does bother some people. So good morning. Happy Friday. Welcome and thank you for joining me. We are going to create a couple of cards today. I do have a couple of announcements, but I'm going to give people a chance to find me. So when you jump on, say hello. Let me know you're here. It's always nice to know who I'm getting to chat with and spend some Friday crafting time with. A couple of things. So if you missed out on my product shares, I have just 2 little packages still outstanding. Good morning, Joan, and welcome. Oh, from Washington, you are up very early this morning. There is a big time difference between us. If you miss out on my product share, I have just a couple of packages left to be delivered. But once they get delivered, I can release my backup product shares. So I have a paper share. I have a ribbon and embellishment share. I have paper samplers for the new January to April mini catalog. And I also have, I believe, just this very one set of annual catalog samplers. So if you missed out and you were wanting a share, please reach out to me. I have a wait list going, and it's first come, first serve if you would like a share. All right. This is what the paper share looks like. This is the ribbon and embellishment share plus. It's a ribbon and embellishment plus share. So you have all your ribbons and all the little embellishments, and it's like a quarter to a half a pack. It just depends how the numbers are in the packs. And so I would love to be able to ship a share off to you. Plus you get some of these absolutely gorgeous gold floral card bases and envelopes and some of the new square boxes in that. So shares were really, really good this time. If you are a demonstrator and you are joining the Stampin' Up! Demonstrator event in Houston in March, I am hosting an event there Saturday evening at the conclusion of On Stage, and I have just a few spots, like I think 4 spots left. It filled, and fortunately I was able to get more space, and I think I have like 4 spots left. So if you're going to Houston, I would absolutely love to meet you and have you join us. We are going to have a blast. The event includes dinner, crafting, games, prizes. I even worked in a little extra goodie. So please reach out to me if you have any questions or if you would like to join us for On Stage Crafter Math. All right, so the mini catalog is in full swing. That also means that celebration is in full swing. And so far, everything is still available, which is really amazing because there's such good stuff in here. So these items in this celebration catalog are while supplies last. You cannot purchase any of these, but you can get unlimited items with each $50 that you purchase for the months of January and February. So that's always really fun to get free things when you shop. Who doesn't love free? So we are going to use one of the celebration items today. and that is the Softly Stippled Designer Series paper. Now you may look at this and be like, well, those are flowers. Well, how are you using those with dogs? Well, I'm going to show you. This paper is beautiful. It has floral prints on one side and really neat, cool, textured prints on the other. And I just absolutely love these textured prints. They are perfect for backgrounds. And I'm even going to show you today, we're going to stamp on it and color it. So you can really do a lot with some of these background textures that are in some of our beautiful designer series papers. Now this Doggone Friendly background stamp I think is absolutely adorable. There's so many different breeds here. I'm not even sure I know what all the breeds are, but a lot of them I can recognize. And I thought it would be fun to show you two different ways to color this background stamp. And I kept today's card layout very similar, but I wanted to show you how you could get completely different looks by varying your color technique. Now, one of these color techniques is so cool, so cool. I'm super excited to show it to you. That's this one, and I don't even know what to call it. I'm just going to call it the smush background coloring. I don't even know what else you call it. Good morning, Helen, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And now this technique is called the spotlight technique. It has been around for a really long time. And I thought this background stamp was a really good way to be able to feature the spotlight technique. So I will show you how I created this one. But I wanted to start with this card first. Now, to create both of the cards today, I also pulled in the perennial postage bundle. This bundle is also part of the January to April mini catalog. I just love the sentiments. They work for so many different occasions. Everyone needs a really great sentiment set available that's seasonal to use on your projects. And this is definitely it, carrying you into the spring and early summer months, because it covers so many things. And the sentiments are specific but generic enough that it would work for so many occasions. And then the coordinating die set is just, what can I say? I've used it a ton already, and I know I'm going to continue to use it a lot. Now, these come in both square and rectangles, so you can get some varied looks. But look at how awesome that postage stamp edge looks on this card. And I made another card that I can't show you. It's for one of my tutorial groups. Actually, you know what? I can give you a sneak peek. Let me grab it. It's going to be a really quick sneak peek. Ready? Ooh, isn't that cute? And I used the same background postage die, and that's the biggest one here. And it cuts a full card layer that gives you just a really nice border. And it's a nice opportunity to use a beautiful designer series paper in your background, because you'll be able to see the pattern kind of peek out from around that layer. And it really adds to the card. So this perennial postage bundle is really nice. And I thought it was a nice pairing. So I used that on both of today's cards. So let's talk a little bit how I made this project. So you are going to want a few different supplies. So for cardstock, I used a gray granite card base. Let me pull out all my little pieces here. I used a gray granite card base, and that's cut 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4, so it's a standard size card base. Then I cut a full front layer of this linen pattern from the stippled, where did I put it? From the stippled, Softly Stippled Designer Series paper pack. Now this paper pack you can earn free with your purchase, so This is not a paper pack you can actually purchase. But look at how cool that is. And on the back, it's got this floral print, and you'd never know. So this is cut 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So it's just going to cover the whole front of my card. Then I cut an early espresso layer using the perennial postage dies. So I used this largest one here. All right, the largest die, and I cut an early espresso layer to go behind the piece that I'm actually going to show you the coloring technique on. And this is a piece of regular basic white, and it's cut 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. And the size of this can vary depending on what you're layering it on, but that fits just really nicely on this largest postage piece. If you were layering it on the front of your card and you wanted to vary the size, you could. Then I have a scrap of basic white that I'm going to stamp my sentiment on, and another little scrap of designer series paper. What do you do with these tiny little strips? Well, I'm going to show you. And then I cut out a vellum heart. This is vellum cardstock. And for that, you can use a punch, or you can use any die set. This is a hot air balloons dies, and I used this heart die here that actually cuts out some of the balloons in the designer series paper. But it's just a nice shaped heart because it's a little different. It's a little longer and narrower, and it made a really nice heart for this project. Good morning, Kristen, and welcome. Thank you for jumping on. Now we are going to use several colors of ink, and you can pull in whatever colors you would like. But I stayed all with neutrals and colors that I would see on dogs. So I used Smoky Slate and Pebbled Path that's on the gray side. And then I used Crumb Cake, Pumpkin Pie, and Early Espresso on the brown side. And then for stamping the background stamp, I'm going to use some Memento Black. And to do the technique, you're going to want blending brushes. So I have my blending brushes for browns and for blacks and grays. And I'm just going to take a piece of scrap paper and kind of get any excess ink off my brushes, although it doesn't look like I really have much on there. And this technique I'm going to do using this glass mat. This glass mat is new. It isn't anything you can purchase. However, if you decide to join my team during the months of January or February, this, along with the cleaning cloth, which is amazing, and this silicone mat, which works so great for keeping your inky things and tools on. This comes as a set free in addition to what you would normally get in your starter kit. It's absolutely amazing. I have been using this glass mat for so many things. Last week I did some inking on it as well. And the technique I'm doing today, you need a glass mat like this to do. So let's get started. I'm also going to pull in my brayer, but you could also use an acrylic block, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that here shortly. But let's just kind of lighten our paper piece load just a little bit here. Let me adhere my background onto my card base with just a little bit of multi-purpose glue, or you could use Stamp & Seal, whatever your adhesive of choice is. All right. I like liquid glue for pieces like this because you can get them lined up perfectly. And then I'm just going to set this aside. All right. So the way that I created this background is I took my ink pads and I just did direct ink pad direct to my glass mat. So hopefully you can see this. I'm just squishing a little bit of it on to my glass mat in no particular order. I'm just, well, there is a little bit of an order. I'm kind of going light to dark. And I just want some of that ink on there in a random fashion. Good morning, Melissa, and welcome. Thanks for joining. So this, I think this is just a really, really fun way to color something. And you can see I'm just kind of laying down that ink, and wherever it falls is kind of where it lands. All right. So now that I have an area of random ink colors, I'm going to use my blending brushes to just lightly blend it. I'm not going to blend it a lot, just a little. I'm going to use my brown brush to kind of hit the browns. I'll use my gray to kind of pick up the smoky slate and the pebbled path. But all I'm going to do is just kind of blur these edges a little bit and spread the ink. I don't want to make the colors muddy because I do want color differentiation on my project. But I'm just going to take this glass mat and use it to my advantage, having a nice smooth surface to blend some of this ink. So now I'm going to kind of hit the grays. And I think I want a little, maybe I am okay. Okay, and you don't have to work fast, but you don't want to take forever either. Now that I have this blended and I've softened the lines, you just don't want straight lines for sure. This needs to be blended a little more out here. Now I'm going to take my paper, and you can use the lines on your mat to put this down. And I'm going to use my brayer to just roll over the top just to make sure there's nice even pressure to pick up that color. Okay. And when I'm done, there's little feet on here. You can set that down. It won't get ink on anything. And then I'll just give that just, a few extra seconds to let that color pick up into the paper. And then when you pick it up, you have this really amazing colored background. Isn't that so, so cool? Now, some of these areas are a little light, so you could come back in and push it down into the ink and try to pick up some of that color on your paper. All right. So if you have an area that you don't feel has as much color as you were wanting on it, just stick it back down in there and kind of fill those in. But I think I'm happy with this. I think this looks good. So now I will show you how easy this is to clean. This mat is absolutely amazing. So first I'll just kind of wipe off my brayer because it'll pick up a little bit of ink. And then I just take this cloth and wipe up the ink. And I'm good to go. I'll give it a second to dry, and then I'll have a nice clean work surface. Isn't that fun? Good morning, Jean. Welcome, and thank you for joining. It's fun to have you here this morning. So here is our amazing colored surface. So I'm just going to give this a second to dry here. It's dry. So now we can come in with our background stamp and stamp. Now, for these background stamps, you can use the big block, or you can just take this and stick it right down on this glass mat because it has a nice smooth surface. And you can use these grid lines to get everything nice and straight. So you can put it right down like that. It's going to hold it just like a block. These bigger stamps, I like to put the ink direct to the stamp as opposed to trying to stamp the stamp on the ink pad. It's a little trickier. It's a little harder to see that you have everything inked up well. So I'm doing ink direct to the stamp. And then I'm going to take this paper, and if there's a particular dog you want, that's fine. You can make sure that you get it on there. And I kind of think I want it over here. So now you can take your brayer again, and you don't want your paper to move, but you can go over it and just kind of give it some even pressure. And when you pick it up, now you have this really, really super cool background. Isn't that neat? And I can use my cloth that comes with my glass mat to clean my background stamp. And now it can go right back in the case. So there is our layer that we're going to use in order to create our project. And I did get a little bit of a double image on that, but it's okay. It still looks fine. So now let's adhere this in place to our die cut layer from Early Espresso using our perennial postage dies. That's the largest die that I cut. And we're going to just center this. And there's our layer. What do you think? Isn't that fun? So now let's bring in the rest of our pieces and we will assemble this card. So I'm going to use two embellishments today. I'm going to use some linen thread, which is one of my favorites. And then I'm going to use some of the rustic metallic adhesive backed dots, which I thought just worked really well with the colors. So let's take some of our linen thread and tie a bow around this. You can choose to go once or twice, whatever you want. And I'm just tying a simple bow. And then I'm going to adhere this in place with some Stampin' Seal. And that will just be centered on my card front. And then from here, we're just going to build up a couple of these little layers. So let's bring in our Early Espresso ink and stamp the sentiment. And I thought the sentiment, I know you will get through this. Sending love and best wishes was good for this card to make it a pet sympathy card, because when we lose our pets, if you've ever had a pet, you know it is awful because they become part of your family. And when you lose them, you really notice it. So I'm going to stamp this and then trim it down just a little bit so that my layer's a little smaller. So I'll just bring in my mini trimmer here. Thanks, Helen. I'm glad you like that technique. And it's so, so easy. And you can use any colors that you would like that coordinate with your project. You can make it bright and funky. You can make it soft and monochromatic. The sky is the limit. And every time, it's like making tie-dye. Every time you create a project, it's going to look different. And I will show you what I mean here when I show you my original project and then the one that I just finished. All right, so let's put a little bit of adhesive on the back of our vellum heart. And again, this vellum heart was cut from the hot air balloon dies. I don't know where I put them here. Oh, here they are. They're hiding under my scrap paper. So this is the hot air balloon dies, and I use this heart that cuts out some of the hot air balloons in the paper. So I'm just going to put this heart and adhere it right down to my cardstock. And then sometimes we get these little tiny strips of designer series paper. I usually throw them away, but today, or yesterday I should say, when I was putting everything together, I thought I'm going to save that and add it to the back of my sentiment just to kind of break up some of the background color. It just helps set your sentiment apart a little bit when you have some place for your eye to rest with lots of color. So now once I have that little strip on the back, I'm going to put a couple of dimensionals on the back of this and then adhere it to my card front. And then the front of our project is done. We can move to the inside. And I'm just going, oh, actually we do need to put our little gems on. Let me move my heart over a little bit. I put it too close to my bow. All right, that's better. Okay. Now we can bring in our rustic metallic dots. These are so good to just give a little bit of extra dimension to your project. And there is our project. And you can see how both backgrounds look just a little bit different. So what do you think? Oh, Joan likes the postage stamp dies. Aren't they cool? They are so cool. I agree. So what do you think of that? Isn't that a fun coloring technique? You could make all kinds of layers in different colors and then just set them aside and then use them on projects as you need a neat background. Oh, I see lots of hearts and thumbs up. Thanks, everyone. I'm glad you like that. It's so fun and so easy. And if you don't have blending brushes, you could also use sponge daubers. You could also use Stampin' Mister and spritz a little bit of alcohol or a little bit of water on there. Anything that will make the ink move and blend together. And then you could put your background paper, in this case it was the basic white, down to pick up that color to make our projects. Oh, but I forgot to stamp on the inside. Look at me getting ahead of myself. So I'm going to stamp my inside sentiment, which is this one here, sending love and best wishes, so that I have a pet sympathy card ready if I need it. There we go. Now it's done. So that's fun. I think I need to put a little more adhesive on my heart. It didn't like it that I picked it up. Okay. All right, so let's move on to our second project, which is featuring the spotlight technique. Now, this technique is not new. It's been around forever and ever and ever. You've probably seen this before, but I thought it was a good technique to use with this stamp because it's so cute, and you could cut out these little doggies. You could color the whole thing in. You could use strips. There are so many ways you could use this background, but I just kept the card layout similar and just showed you how you could get a different look by varying your coloring technique. So to make this project, we are once again going to use our celebration paper, softly stippled, but this time we are going to use this really amazing, like painted surface texture paper in our background. And again, we're going to use our perennial postage bundle, which really we're just using the stamp set on this project. But here's the papers that we will use. And you could, again, change it up to be whatever colors you wanted. All right, so we're going to use a boho blue background, and this one is cut 4 1/4 by 11, or you could do 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, just a standard card base. I think I actually used 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 for this one, but it doesn't matter, either one. Then you will want a front layer that's 4 inches by 5 1/2, and that's just going to go on the front of our project. Then a piece of designer series paper or light colored cardstock, whatever you wanted to stamp on. And you want that to be 3 7/8 by 4 no, that's wrong. Sorry, yes, 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And that's just going to layer on so it looks kind of like this. All right, we're going to stamp on this. Then you're going to want a scrap strip of coordinating cardstock. This is boho blue to go with my background that I'm going to stamp my sentiment on. And then for the spotlight technique, you're going to want a shape, whatever you die cut or punch, In this case, I used the 2-inch circle punch, and I used a Stylish Shapes die that is just a bit bigger than the 2-inch circle punch so that I have a layer behind the piece that I'm going to spotlight. All right, so in this case, this is about 2 1/4. So this is a 2 1/4 inch Stylish Shapes circle die. And then I used the 2-inch circle punch for my spotlight. And this is an online exclusive, in case you're thinking to yourself, I haven't seen circle punches in the catalog. You're right, you haven't. These are online exclusives. There's a couple different sizes, so that's where you can find those. And these dies, of course, if you don't have them, I don't know how you're creating, because I use them a ton. All right. Now to color, you could use Stampin' Blends. You could use water. I'm going to use my watercolor pencils this morning. And a couple of inks. I'm going to use Basic Black to stamp my background, and I'm going to use Night of Navy for the sentiment. Although, maybe I'll mix it up and even stamp the background in Night of Navy. That might look really cool. I'm going to try that, actually. So let's put the black away for now. I'm just going to stick with Night of Navy today. And then for embellishments, I have classic matte dots, which these are like an essential. You can use them on literally every single project because you have white, off-white, black, gray, and because they're you have light colors, you can even color with Stampin' Blends to make any color that you may need outside of that. And then I'm using up my white twine, I think that I created last week when I separated some twine. I'm just using up that piece, but if not, you could use the baker's twine. There's our baker's twine collection that has white, off-white, crumb cake, black, and I think gray granite in there. So, and literally any single one of those colors in that collection would work on this card. All right, so let's get stamping. So once again, I'm going to take out my Doggone Friendly background stamp, and the first thing I'm going to do is ink it up. So I'm once again going to use ink to pad. Good morning, Chris, and welcome. Thank you for joining. It's nice to have you here this morning. All right, so I'm going to ink this up, and then I'm going to stamp that on the back of this paint texture piece. And I'm just going to set that on there. You just want to be careful you don't move it like I did on our first card. I like to use a Stampin' Block. You could also use your brayer just to kind of get even. Sometimes I don't want it stamped evenly, and I purposely want it to look a little distressed. And in that case, I'll just kind of lightly, randomly rub it and then be done. But here is our background, and this one is a Night of Navy, and you can compare to the black. Look how cool that looks. I love it. I like the color more than the black. I think it just makes the image pop. I love this stamp too, Jean. And unfortunately right now, we don't have any little dog critters. We are golden retriever people, but we are on the go so much right now. Literally every weekend, one of us is out of town, sometimes both of us. And if we are in town, we're usually never home because we have 4 kids to keep us busy and all kinds of travel sports. So it's just not the right time, but I can tell you there's definitely room in our hearts for another golden retriever. One will be coming. Maybe sooner than later. The kids have been on us lately to get a dog. All right, so while we're stamping, I'm going to take this scrap and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. And for this one, I thought thank you for your friendship was just fitting because, face it, our dogs are our best friends, right? So thank you for your friendship, and hopefully I can get this straight since I'm not over my paper, but another benefit of this glass mat are the awesome grid lines. So I'm going to give myself just a little bit of space on the ends. so that I can trim. I'm going to do angled edges on this one as well. And then the last thing we're going to stamp is inside our card. So we're going to go inside our card and stamp the sentiment inside, which is, "You mean the world to me," which is good for any friend, right? Not just our dog friends. Clearly, you're not going to give your dog a card. You might give it to a neighbor or any other special person. All right, so we're done stamping. So now we're going to do a little bit of coloring. So let's pull out our pieces again. And for the spotlight technique, you're going to color just a portion of your project. So I'm going to take my 2-inch punch and I'm going to decide what on here I want to highlight. It can be a specific dog. I kind of like this little one over here. Let's see if I can get her. Oh, that's cute right there. It gets the golden retriever or the lab, I guess. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to spotlight over here. And you just need to remember you're going to have a little tiny border. Now you can color. You're going to color just this piece that you punched out. So let's take my watercolor pencils and color. So we have a couple different sets. I'm going to make the golden retriever. I'm going to color with crushed curry and then just a tiny little bit of brown so that he's not quite so yellow. Or you could do Cajun craze because sometimes golden retrievers have reddish hair. So maybe I'll do that, my blending brush. And then for this little one right there, I think maybe I'll make, I don't know what kind of dog that is, but it's a she, I just decided, and I'm going to put a bright pink bow on her, and she's going to be gray, and I think I'm going to make that little mustache black. So even though my ink is navy, I think it'll be okay. So I'm just going to add ink. I'm sorry, not ink. Watercolor pencil. Just going to color in this little doggy. And you don't have to color it in precisely because I'm going to use my blender pen to pull that ink. So you just want to get a little bit on there. All right, so now for the golden retriever, I'm going to start out with my crushed curry. And I love that this paper is going to give us some texture in the background. And we have a little bit of Cajun craze. I'm just going to come in with the Cajun craze and kind of hit these artist highlights. See how the artist has kind of put some lines in there for us? And I'll carry that through. And then just really light, tiny bit on the tongue, but then I'm going to make it much darker on the bow because I want that bow to stand out. We don't have a collar here, but those will be our focal point dogs. Now we do have this one up here, so we are going to want to add some color there. And because we've used Night of Navy paper, I do want to pull in something navy to help it blend. So I think this bandana is a really great opportunity to do that. And then whatever color we want to make this dog. Maybe that dog is just going to be plain brown. So I'll color this one in. And again, it doesn't have to be precise because you're going to be pulling this color. All right, so let's kind of see where we're at with that. Now, when you're using the blender pen, you are going to want just a piece of scrap paper to clean the tip of your, you'll want to be able to clean the tip of your blender pen. So I'm just going to pull in a scrap paper here, and I'm going to start blending. So I'm going to start with the golden retriever, And once I start blending, you're going to see how this color is really going to start coming out. And the texture from the pencils will become much smoother. And you can pull the ink. So see how that now looks neat. And then I just wipe that tip. And even though the tip stains, it's still, you don't want to blend too much because the blue from the ink is coming into the coloring a little bit. So keep it light. Now the black Memento Tuxedo Black does not come up into your coloring with your blender pens. The classic ink just really isn't designed for this, but I kind of broke the rules a little bit and used it anyway because I thought it might look neat. But it's turning out just fine. All right, so now you have the main focal parts of your spotlight piece colored. Good morning, Polly. Welcome. I'm glad you found me a little bit early this morning. All right, so I might leave this just like this. So now we can adhere this onto our die cut circle. This is our die cut Stylish Shapes circle. I'm going to put a little bit of Tombow on the back of this. I really like Tombow when I'm working with layers because the glue stays wet for just enough time so that you can get your layers centered really nicely. All right, so now that's centered, and somehow I have some blue ink here, so I'm just going to clean that up before it gets where I don't want it. Now let's bring in the rest of our pieces to finish off our project. So we can start adhering our layers together. So I'm going to put some adhesive on the back of this front layer, and this is going to go down on our Night of Navy layer. Like this. And then now our spotlight layer is going to get popped up. So we want some dimensionals on that. And then you place it right over where you punched it out. And you want that little extra cardstock layer there for a couple of reasons. One, it just helps it pop even more. But two, I'm going to scooch just a little bit and line it up. I just want to line this dog up just a little better. And two, it gives a little space around the image because you popped it out of that space. It just helps it kind of go back into that space. It doesn't let you see underneath. Now, this will go on our card front, again, with some dimensionals. So this technique is really easy. You could make it as detailed or simple as you would like. You could just color one of the dogs if you didn't want to color that whole circle. You could use any shape or label die or punch, which is what makes it fun. You could really mix it up. All right, so there we go. So now we're going to finish this off by adding our sentiment, and I did stamp this already. So I'm just going to take my scissors and trim this at an angle, and then I'm going to use my paper trimmer and trim this down and make it just a little narrower so that it's not quite as thick on the card. So tell me, have you done the spotlight technique before? Tell me if you've ever made a card with that. I bet some of you have, because it is an old technique. Give me a thumbs up or a comment if you've used that before. Oh, hi, Helen. Oh, I know. I'm so excited to meet so many of you. Oh, look at that. I had stamped them back and didn't even realize that. I am as excited to meet so many people at the Saturday night event as I am that we finally get an amazing in-person Stampin' Up! Event. I am going to be giving out tons of hugs because I can't wait to see everyone. It's so exciting. So everyone is going to have to tell me who they are because I don't get to see you. We just get to chat. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm glad you can make it. All right. So I'm just going to set this anywhere on the card front where you would like it. All right. You get to pick the spot. And then this piece of white twine, I'm just going to make a bow. I think I want a little longer tail. I'm just going to make a bow and then put that on with either a folded up glue dot or a little dot of Tombow. Your choice, whatever you like to work with. And I think, where do we want to put that? Here, here, maybe there. And I think for that, I'm going to do, it doesn't want to, you know what, my strip underneath is catching and it's not allowing this to lay flat. I need to just make it shorter. There we go. Oh, so much better. So much better. All right, so I'm going to put a little tiny dot of Tombow right there. And that's going to allow me to put this right there. And then I'm just going to trim my ends. That wants to unravel. Ooh, my scissor tips are getting dull. I guess it's time for new snips. All right. And then let's take some of these classic matte dots. Now, you could use white, you could use the gray, you could use the black. You could take your Stampin' Blends, your boho blue Stampin' Blends, and you could color some of these. That would be cool. I should have brought some boho blue blends over here, but unfortunately I didn't grab them. But I'm going to add a few of these here just to dress it up a bit, a little extra something. And there is our card. So you get to see two variations. You get to see one with a black background versus navy, or there's one all colored and just partially colored. So you can see how it looks to mix it up a little bit. Facebook is still messing with me and telling me that my video has ended. So I'm sure hoping that you're still here. So let me see if I can reset this on the screen that I used to see comments. Okay, I'm almost there. It takes many clicks. Yay, it looks like I'm still here. Hello, hello. All right. Hi, Kay. Welcome and thanks for joining. I'm glad that you made it. We are all done. But let me show you the first project that we made because it was the most fun coloring technique and it's so easy. Let me bring those cards back in. Here's the spotlight technique. And I think I'm just going to call this the smushed ink background. I don't know what else to call it. So do you have a favorite? Which one do you like better? Do you like the spotlight technique or do you like this background? Do you have a favorite? Tell me which one you like. You must have a favorite. Ooh, Helen likes the first one. She likes this one. Isn't that a fun technique? I hope you try it. I hope you try it. And how about the spotlight technique? Have any of you tried that before? I'd love to know if you've done the spotlight technique before. I have to be honest, I'm not sure if I've ever made a card with it until I did this one, which is pretty amazing when I think about it. No one has done the spotlight technique, huh? Oh, Helen has. Oh, cool. Okay, great. Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. I'm so glad you joined me, even though I'm early today. Normally I go live at 1 p.m. on Fridays. I went live at 9 because I'm doing something super fun today that I don't take nearly enough time to do, but I love to sew. And I'm actually spending the day sewing with a friend today, and I'm taking the day off from working in my studio today. I'm really looking forward to it. And again, one last reminder, if you are a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and you are attending the on-stage Stampin' Up! Demonstrator event in Houston in March, I am hosting an event Saturday night after onstage, and I would love to have you join me. I have literally, I think, like 3 or 4 spots left. It filled, and fortunately I was able to get more space. We are going to have a blast. It includes dinner, crafting, games, tons of fun. I'd love to have you join me. The information is here on my Mel's Inky Fingers Facebook page. And if you missed out on my paper samplers, I think all but 1 or 2 packages have been delivered so I can release my backups. I have paper samplers for the January to April. I have samplers for the annual catalog. And then I have my spare backup paper share and ribbon and embellishment plus share. So if you missed out on shares, please reach out to me and let me know. I would love to be able to send those off to someone because the products are always beautiful and amazing. So thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and an amazing week. And I will look forward to seeing you next Friday. Bye.